So essentially, problems start at the top with leadership. So most of us, believe it or not, are not great leaders, and we have been trained in leadership. There are some, I would say, natural-born predispositions. So say decision-making speed, things like that. But you can learn leadership. Leadership is not something that all of a sudden, you either have it or you don't. That's not true. You can actually learn leadership. And most of us have very poor leadership training. In the military, they have West Point Academy, for example. In that school, they essentially take years to train their officers to be great leaders. We're running these businesses. We are leaders. I think we're bosses, not leaders. Big difference between a boss and a leader. We need to learn to become better leaders. Larger companies always invest in leadership training. Smaller companies don't because they don't realize how important it is. But everything goes downhill. So essentially, if you don't have great leadership, you're going to waste a lot of time and you're going to waste a lot of money. And time is the worst because you can't make it up. So if you waste 10 years because you're not leading properly, it's going to cost you the future. And that can be changed very quickly. The next piece is technology, which I call the nervous system of the business, right? The communications of the business. How do we communicate with each other? Whether it's transferring estimates or crew packages for the production guys to install. How do we get that information to them in the right way and where nothing's missing and it's like sequenced properly? How do we actually communicate with our peers? What do they need to know? What don't they need to know, right? When do we share? When don't we share? That's all part of the technology, or what I call communication. Most companies do this very poorly. The economics, the finance. So that's basically money, insurance, and law. Most people have the insurance down. The law, there might be some holes there, right? That can be tightened up to save you from a lawsuit or a very difficult customer. But essentially, financial management's a big issue. So I see very poor cash flow management. I see a lot of chart of accounts in businesses that are so suboptimal, you can't even see what's going on with the money and where it's going, right? Whether it's being wasted, whether it's being stolen, that happens too. By employees within the company. So that needs to be resolved. It's not very difficult to resolve, actually. That's the irony in the whole thing. But most people don't take the time or put a little bit of money, investment into getting that correct. Sales and marketing. So sales, most people are pretty good salespeople, right? So if you speak truth and you're honest and you've got a good personality and you actually show up and return the phone calls, that's generally not an issue. Now you can dial that into a whole other level where you get sales scripts and you actually get people to get to yes. So you eliminate the objections, and by the end, they're like, yeah, let's do this. So there is some psychology that goes there. The marketing is another piece where some people market too much, too little, right? They screen poorly, so you spend all this money on marketing, but you can't handle the business. That can be optimized. I do see some terrible websites, that's for sure. So that's something that needs to be invested in, right? The website essentially is your company store. And that's your where people go to actually see your real business. And if that's not great, and your images are poor, and you've got pictures of plants that are tiny, and the stonework's not great, the lighting's poor, there's hoses left, and like all that stuff is not going to get you the best clients. And guess what? We are in a race for talent, and we're in a race for great customers, right? So we want to get that stuff right. It makes a huge difference. On the human resources side, again, when we get great people, typically we are too cheap. We don't take care of them properly. We don't train them. We do a lot of things with human resources that are suboptimal. We have poor recruiting. We keep the right people in the wrong positions. We have the wrong people in the bus sometimes. And so that needs to be cleaned up. Actually, operations is probably the easiest thing to fix. So that is essentially buying the right equipment. And most of us are too cheap, so we essentially have very ineffective equipment, and we don't understand how to manage the equipment in the fleet to get the most out of it, because that's going to leverage our people, right? So estimating is a part of operations, scheduling is a part of operations. It all ties into sales. So all these things are connected. But if you don't get this right, you're going to end up with a business that is suboptimally run, and people are frustrated. People quit, right? People quit their managers, generally speaking. So obviously, if you have poor management, poor systems, you're not going to keep the great talent. They're just not going to stick around. So you need to fix that. It's actually urgent. So in my business consulting practice, I see two growth journeys. One on the left, which is red, and one on the right, which is green. Most people, I would say 99% of people, are on the left-hand side of this equation. It's tough. They're trying to grow. They're reacting. They're firefighting. Poor communication. Mistakes are being made. Huge amounts of warranty, right? Much better just to get something dialed in, organized, lean and mean, and then scale that. And there are ways to scale, and most people don't know how to scale properly. Because when you want to grow your business and you don't have the talent behind it, it's going to blow up. If someone quits and you bought this new truck to start doing more work and the person quits, you've got nightmares. If you've got poor processes for the information flow, that's also a disaster. So you really got to have things dialed in, and essentially you don't want to redline your business. You want to be at around 90% capacity and then have somebody who's continually working on improving that business. So, let's hang out on the right-hand side. Let's get a clean, mean business machine, and let's avoid the chaos on the left. And that can be done by planning. So most people don't plan their growth. They just simply react to what's coming in. Oftentimes it's really important to say no to things because you're not ready. It doesn't make sense to jump in the water when you haven't been taught how to swim. So ideal journeys, we optimize first. And once we optimize them, we scale. So my recommendation to most of you is hold back on growth, work on getting better and fixing your problems in your business, identify what the biggest problems are first, knock those out of the park, and then start to grow. And by the way, your profits will actually increase without growing. That's the irony in the whole thing. You want to be more profitable? Get rid of the waste in your business first. And once you've dialed it in where things are running really smooth, and you've got the ability and the capacity to grow, then you can make some growth moves. I'd love to help you. The reason I am doing this is that I want to make sure people don't suffer like I did. It was a very difficult journey. It didn't need to be that way. I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have any help. And I realize now if I did, it would have saved me huge amounts of grief. The only ingredient is openness. You just need to have an openness to possibilities, and your life can change within a couple of years. It's a lot of hard work, but it's very rewarding on the other side. When I look at the two businesses, I see essentially a distressed business or I see an opportunity business. It is great to move a distressed business to the opportunity side of the balance sheet, and then we move forward and we grow the business, and your quality of life improves, your staff get paid better, you're more profitable, it's a safer business, better customers, the experience is way better. So I'd love to help you move from either distress or actually realizing your opportunity.